Greetings, good morning, and welcome to Mind the Moment, brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Health Care. This, my friends, is our coffee house in the cloud, a place where we invite amazing mindfulness instructors to talk with us about what mindfulness means to them, what it can mean for you. We'll be practicing together and then giving you a chance to let us know what's on your mind. Now, it's November 12th, 2020, and history continues to unfold around us. Now, I always look forward to spending these 30 minutes with you, our viewers, but I'm especially grateful for this week because this is the one half hour out of my day when I know for certain that the screen in front of me is serving as an actual portal to human connection and not some flat field of memes which I feel driven to rake my fat thumbs across until the skin starts to blister. I am reminded of the words of Yuval Noah Harari, author of *Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind*. Harari wrote, quote, "One of history's few iron laws is that once people get used to a certain luxury, they take it for granted. They reach a point where they can't live without it. We have invented countless time-saving machines that are supposed to make life more relaxed. Washing machines, vacuum cleaners, telephones, computers, email. We thought we were saving time. Instead, we revved up the treadmill of life to 10 times its former speed and made our days more anxious and agitated," end quote. Given the fog of anxiety and agitation I'm guessing many of us may feel caught up in, I couldn't be more pleased to be slowing down the treadmill to a moderate sprint this morning with the founder and director of Harvard Pilgrim's Mindfulness Program, Tara Healey. Good morning, Tara.
Good morning, John, and good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be with you today.
Tara, what's your mood like these days? Agitated, ecstatic,
somewhere? I think it's a real mix, John. It's just watching what's happening with the virus around the country and really around the world. Some days I feel pretty optimistic and other days not so much, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. So, all right, folks, here's how we're going to run it down today. In just a moment, Tara will be leading us in a 10-minute guided meditation. Next, we'll get into some Q&A together, and that's where we especially like your help. So please take a moment, open up the chat box at the bottom of your screen. Use that to type in any questions you may have, any comments you'd like to share now or at any time. As a way to limber up our typing digits, Tara, is there something in particular you'd like to check in with folks about?
Yes. Yeah. So for those that have been joining me over the past several weeks, I have been starting with a question related to the sense experience. So thinking about a sound that you enjoy or a scent that you like or something, a taste that brings you some comfort. And so I was listening to a meditation teacher talk the other night about the sense experience. And one of the things that in this particular practice is that thought is also a sense. And so we don't typically think of it that way. But what she went on to say is one of her teachers talked about, that the job of the eye is to see, to make contact with an object. Of ear is to hear and making contact with a sound. And the mind is to think. And so I've run through all the senses except mind. And so what I want to ask is there a memory that you would be willing to share that brings you comfort? Something that you think about that brings you some sense of joy or comfort?
All right, a memory that brings you comfort, just a few words would be great. While folks are thinking and typing, please keep in mind that only Tara and I will be able to see anything that you type. And if we don't have a chance to read your particular question or comment out loud, please know that we do read and value them all. As we close today, which will be right around 9 a.m., I'll mention some more ways that you can keep in touch with us too. All right, so somebody says, sitting on the deck at camp and reading to my Grammy many years ago when this person was a child. Somebody else says, making and eating polenta with my grandmother, receiving a new puppy, my children's smiles when they get silly together, spending time with my grandparents when I was a child, reading bedtime stories to my kids, the waves crashing on the shores at Lake Superior, the memory of hugging my mom. She is in Italy and I don't know when I will see her again in person.
Oh,
Oh, it's something about I think of my grandparents. They when I would go to see my grandparents when I was a child. This was back when you could buy 7-Up in large glass bottles, and I was always allowed to drink one of these when I was visiting my grandparents. So it made it a little bit sweeter in many ways. Tara,
it's
yourself, what
yeah,
memories are?
I thank you so much for all these responses. A memory that I have that I call upon often is my grandmother and picking lily of the valley flowers and that would line her house. Yeah, so it's a comforting memory.
Okay, well, I think that's gonna give us a good start to the session here. All right, so Tara, last week,
Yes,
you and I made the decision to invite Jess Morey to guide both the sessions on both
yes.
Tuesday and Thursday in order to help us hack through the ambiguous saga that was and is election week. So it's been 2 weeks since you were last with us.
Yes.
And during our last session together, we began to explore the set of 5 commonplace challenges which mindfulness teachers warn their students to be on the lookout for.
Yeah.
Every teacher gives these 5 challenges slightly different names, but
Yeah.
the list that I like classifies them as the following: desire,
Yep.
hostility, fatigue, agitation, and doubt. Now, 2 weeks ago, you and I talked about doubt, and I'd love to get your take today on agitation,
Yeah.
especially in light of the lingering feelings of agitation many of us may be feeling as the events of the past week, month, and year continue to pummel us.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
agitation figure into meditation practice? How does it stop us from being mindful? Is it ever useful? And does it have an antidote?
Aha, yes. Yeah. So, it's interesting. I was talking with a friend recently, and this was before the results of the election, and she was saying that her formal practice was really interrupted by a lot of unease and agitation, and she was finding it incredibly difficult. And I think, really the antidote to really almost all of them, John, is that this willingness to be with the physical expression of whatever they are. So, for instance, if we are sitting down, if we sit down in meditation and we expect something like calm or ease or, less thought occurring in the mind, we're setting ourselves up for a really big challenge, and it's actually unhelpful. So that the best thing to do is and we'll take agitation because that's one that just a sense of unsettledness when we are sitting is so common. It's probably one of the more common. Is that it's just simply unpleasant, so you sit down either on your chair or your meditation cushion, and as you get ready to practice, you put your body in a particular position so it's upright and engaged yet relaxed, and then start to see, what does agitation feel like? So you up the curiosity ante, and you're getting closer to it and learning to have a kind of allowance for it. So you're not, you're working without you're not rejecting anything in this practice. You're kind of turning toward with a kind of receptive, curious attitude in the mind. So you don't have to worry about like being with the breath. That can serve as an anchor that you return to. But when you're being pulled strongly by something, let go of your anchor and just open up to, where am I feeling this agitation? Is it in the belly or the chest or in the jaw? Or, we're all so unique. Can I be with that for just a bit?
So don't get agitated by agitation is what I'm hearing you say, because I feel like that is definitely something that would be an issue for me, is if I'm sitting and I'm feeling that sense of restlessness and then it just makes me feel more restless the more
right.
Yeah. But then instead, sort of cutting it off at the root, if you will, or not letting it spin, getting ahead of it, as some people.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing more than unpleasant, right? I mean, it's just unpleasant. And can we learn to have a little bit of a sense of balance with the unpleasantness? And that's in part what we're practicing, is how to be with difficult thoughts, emotions, and body sensations with more ease and less rejection of that state. And it's such a profound practice so that we can carry into aspects of our lives, all aspects of our lives.
All right, Tara, well, let's do it. Let's
All
meditate.
right. All right. So whether you're standing or sitting, both, either would be fine. If you feel some restlessness, sometimes the standing practice can feel a little easier. So you can either stand or remain seated. The eyes can be open or closed, so whatever feels most comfortable. And if they're open, just gaze downward a little bit. And let's go ahead and just adjust our body so that we are sitting or standing in a way that is relaxed, yet upright and engaged, with a spine that is straight but not stiff. And see if you can soften around the spine. So taking a moment to just notice the whole body and any areas that you might be holding a bit, see if you can soften. And I would say just to the degree that you're able. And let's go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths. So on your own, take a deep inhalation through the nose with a little bit of a longer exhalation through the mouth. And do a couple of those. Whether you are seated or standing, begin to connect with the rhythm of your breath. Noticing where the inhalation and the exhalation is most pronounced. And begin to track that particular sensation in the body. So breathing in and breathing out. As thoughts come and go and you notice, simply just release the story. You can even make a soft mental note thinking, and then return to breath sensation, all with the aim of just bringing some stability. And just remembering each time the attention is called away from the object, being breath sensation, leave the breath. So go to that itch or that muscle cramp or that sound in the room or outside of the room, or that sense of unease in the body. Leave the breath and bring your attention to that thing that is pulling you. Rest awareness around that sound or sensation or emotion. And then whenever you're ready, returning back to breath as home base, as an anchor for the wandering mind. And noticing where the mind is. They're releasing memory, planning, releasing thought, softening the body, and re-engaging with your anchor. And again, noticing where the mind is, releasing thought, softening the body, and returning to breath sensation if that's what you're using as your anchor. Noticing where the mind is, softening the body, reconnecting with the anchor. And as you feel ready, if your eyes were closed, you can slowly open the eyes and reconnecting with your surroundings and with each other.
Thank you for that, Tara. So somebody in the chat box was actually asking us to repeat the 5 things, which I was referring to as commonplace challenges. The secret word we use in mindfulness is hindrances. But so the list I gave was desire, hostility, fatigue, agitation, and doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But Tara, I don't know if you want to redefine those, because again, everyone really seems to have their own pet synonyms for these.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I mean, I think that is very plainly spoken, John. I think that's a good way to put it. And just to say, like, these commonly happen to us in meditation. So sleepiness is just super common. You know, it's really, and the antidote to that would be, if you're sitting, stand. If your eyes are typically closed, open them. You know, so one of my teachers talked about being in Southeast Asia, and he would be sleepy so often that one of his teachers had him sit at the edge of a well. Did you know that story, John? Yes. So, you know, we're not doing anything like that. But yeah, and I think, you know, agitation is just, you know, because oftentimes with agitation, we're caught in the agitation with a lot of stories about it, and it's not being seen clearly. So when you see, like, oh, you know, the body and the mind is super agitated right now, let me up the ante of curiosity here. Like, what does agitation feel like? You know, restlessness, that's just so common. And with all of them, sleepiness, agitation, I would, you know, typically the belief is doubt is the hardest one. That's the hardest one to overcome. But, you know, I always say to people that to remember that this practice is about testing everything for yourself, that you never are blindly believing. You know, and the idea is that we're taking our understanding of how the mind works and everybody else's mind, in fact, just the content's different, off the cushion, so to speak, and into the service of our lives, so that we can be more connected with our intentions, our motivations, our values, and we can see when we don't get it right.
All right, so I want to make sure that folks know that they are very welcome to ask Tara any questions you may have using the chat box about agitation or anything else on your minds. And well, folks, take a moment to think and submit questions of their own. Tara, I'm going to accept the pleasure of asking you 1 or 2 things that have been on my mind.
Yes, and please, those of you, you know, who are on the call, as John said, we welcome questions. So, but John, yes, you've got one.
Well, so as I mentioned earlier, in recent days, I've been finding myself refreshing the news app on my phone about once every 3 minutes. And because this has been my mindset, when I saw my wife across the room reading something on her iPad the other night, I immediately assumed she was reading the headlines just like I was. But actually, she said, I'm reading about remote Welsh islands and their caretakers. And I thought, but aren't you concerned about what's happening in the world right now? And at the same time, she seemed much happier than I was at that moment. So does mindfulness have anything to teach us about how to know when being responsive or attentive to important events starts to tilt into fixating on or obsessing over those events?
Yeah, I mean, because I feel like, you know, and mindfulness is often compared to sort of, well, the image that I like, and relatedly, John, to what you're talking about, is it's a guardian of the mind. And so it protects us and it protects others from us potentially. And that, you know, one of the terms that I think is so funny these days is doom scrolling, right? Like, and so what mindfulness can help us do is just see sooner in the scrolling or in the, you know, it helps us to just, it just kind of brings a wedge in sooner so we can see, oh, you know what? And we don't even notice. It's sort of like when we're in meditation and we're, you know, recalling a memory, a story, or planning, there's always a subtle bodily contraction that we don't even know. So usually I say, where is the mind? Releasing the story, softening the body, returning. So I think, what practice helps us do off the cushion is when we are doom scrolling or constantly checking, that it will jump in, the awareness will jump in sooner and help us see, is this really bringing me peace and joy? What is this doing? Do I need to stop?
Yeah, you're pointing something out, Tara, which I think is really important, which is, I think it's easy for one to think when we're meditating, when we're concentrating in the breath, or when we're concentrating on like the feeling of our hands together, something like that.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for one to ask oneself like, well, but what is the use of this really?
Yeah.
And I realize that, there's so much tactility with scrolling. There's so much like the thumb on the screen. And if we've spent time thinking about our bodies and the feeling of our fingers together, whatever it is,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I feel like that moment when your thumb hits the screen, it actually you notice it more.
Yeah.
It can light up something in your brain. Just
Yeah.
that moment of choice. And of course, maybe you do want to keep going, but maybe you think to yourself, well, maybe I'll back away just for this.
Yeah. Really, really good point, John, which is, why in part that I've been emphasizing the sense experience, because that's so important, and the whole reason for formal practice is so that we can then take it out into the world, so we can understand the workings of the mind, not just our mind, but you're actually learning about how minds in general work. And our sense experience of sight and sound and mind, those are the things that can create suffering or not. So we can see how much are we pulled in or holding on to wanting things to be a certain way or wishing things weren't a certain way, and learning to have some space with all of that.
Well, Tara, what I will never get used to is how quickly these sessions fly by, but here we are.
Wow. Yeah.
But at least I can say that we will be back with you every Tuesday and Thursday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. No matter what's happening in the world, we'll be here to help you turn a mindful eye upon it. If you have any questions or comments for us in the meantime, please do send them to askmtm@harvardpilgrim.org or leave me a voicemail at 617-509-7047. Now, if you're looking for a fast and easy way to add the links to these sessions to your iCal or Outlook calendar, look no further than harvardpilgrim.org/livingwellatHome. And while you're there, take note of the many other free live and virtual wellness sessions which Harvard Pilgrim offers the public, including yoga classes, Zumba classes, and health and wellness webinars for adults and kids alike. On that note, we're always trying to improve not only these sessions, but all the free, virtual, and public wellness offerings which Harvard Pilgrim presents. So we'd love to get your thoughts on what we've been doing right and where we can make improvements. So in a moment, I'm going to drop a link in the chat box to a survey. If you'd like, we'd love to have you copy and paste that link or click on it to open it and then fill out the survey at your convenience. Your thoughts are important to us.
Yeah.
So all of us face moments of pain in our lives, but how we deal with that pain can make a huge difference in the quality of our lives. So please do check out the free resources around mindfulness and pain management, which we're offering through a partnership with our friends at Mindful Magazine. Those include things that Tara wrote and and some meditations she has recorded specifically for that site. Those resources can be found at mindful.org/pain. You can always join us for conversation and inspiration on Facebook, facebook.com/mindthemoment. And you can rewatch this session, older sessions, and including our election week conversations with Jess Morey, plus introductory sessions and interviews which Tara conducted with leading mindfulness researchers on our YouTube page, youtube.com/mindthemoment. All right, so I'm going to, give me a second while I copy and paste this link for folks.
Yeah, and thank you, everyone. If you would take the time to just give us a little bit of feedback, we would really love that.
All right, there it is. So again, you can either copy and paste that, or if you just click on it, it should open up in your browser and you can fill out now or later, whatever you like. In the meantime, a closing word, if I may, from Yuval Noah Harari, who wrote, quote, "We study history not to know the future, but to widen our horizons, to understand that our present situation is neither natural nor inevitable, and that we consequently have many more possibilities before us than we imagine," end quote. I might personally say that we practice mindfulness for practically the same purpose, to widen our horizons, to understand that there is more to the present than is immediately apparent, and that if we keep this in mind, more possibilities will appear before us than we could imagine. And that may just be the key to living a meaningful and meaningfully mindful life. As Harari writes elsewhere, quote, "A meaningful life can be extremely satisfying even in the midst of hardship, whereas a meaningless life is a terrible ordeal, no matter how comfortable it is." Tara Healey, thank you for making these 30 minutes seem so meaningful to me. Do you have any closing thoughts you'd like to share before we sign off?
Yeah. So what I just want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. And I would just leave you with this idea of just testing these practices out in the world when you're not formally meditating, but actually, bringing into the world kind of the lens of kindness and open-heartedness, and really testing for yourself how these practices work in a practical way.
All right, thank you for that, Tara.
It's
Thank you
great
for
to be with
joining.
everybody.
We will see everyone next week. Have a great weekend and a momentous day.